Listen only mode.
Hi, everyone. This is Karen Thompson. I'm the Director of Operations at Grow and Lead, and I've got Victoria Lenhart with me on the line to help me with any troubleshooting. Thanks for joining us today to talk about evaluating the person in the leadership role for your organization. The last time I looked out the window, it looked pretty nice out, so we're going to try and get you through this as quick as we can to enjoy our fall day. And to keep things simple, I'm going to be using the CEO title as we talk about referencing the leadership position. Okay, why do we want to do this? You've probably heard about the three board duties that boards have as part of governance: the duty of care, the duty of obedience, and the duty of loyalty. And when you conduct an evaluation, it touches on all three of those, and that you're making informed decisions for the organization. You're maintaining confidentiality when you talk about the CEO's salary, and you're ensuring that the assets of the organization, including people, are supporting the mission. I've got a little screenshot there from the IRS Form 990, and that there's a specific question in the 990 that requires you to confirm that you do an annual review and how you do it, what process you follow. And maybe you're thinking, well, we're a smaller organization and we're not required to fill out the full version of the 990, but you still have a responsibility both to the organization and your CEO to do it. And this is going to give you documentation for the future to be able to look back at, why did you make the decisions that you made regarding salary? You'll have that documentation on file. And in most cases, the board and the CEO, they work well together and organizations progress as they should, but when they don't, by conducting regular performance reviews, it helps the board work with the CEO to build a performance improvement plan if you need one, and documenting what the CEO needs to do to improve. The process alone encourages both the CEO and the board to look at how things are going and how you want to move forward. You can use this as a way to build goals both for the CEO and the organization together. And, performance reviews are scary. The CEO can be just as scared of doing a review as the board might be. But if you're really mindful and careful with each other as you work together through this process, you'll have an opportunity to strengthen your relationship and build trust. And that's only going to help both of you in the future. It can be kind of lonely at the top being a CEO, and CEOs may not get much feedback from their staff, but you as a board member, you're in a great position for that. So, when your CEO is doing a good job, to use this as a way to let them know. And even outside of the evaluation process, I hope you'll let your CEO know when they're doing a great job. CEO reviews they're similar to staff reviews in that there shouldn't be any surprises at review time, because you should be giving feedback throughout the year. At Grow and Lead, we've heard a few stories about leaders who have left organizations after they've had their reviews, and it really makes us wonder if the feedback they got was a surprise and that maybe they weren't really getting feedback throughout the year. There can be some concerns. I know boards are concerned about doing this, and they can be reluctant to do the process for a variety of reasons. And there are some barriers kind of inherent that can make them a challenge. And a lot of boards say, well, I don't know, we don't know the day-to-day operations of the organization, and that's okay, because you really shouldn't. You have a broader vision for the organization, and it's the CEO who's responsible for that day-to-day management. And you're going to have tools, or you should have tools like dashboards, that are going to help you with assessing whether the organization has met its goals, and the CEO's performance is tied directly to that. And some boards, might be afraid of having difficult conversations with their CEO, and know that you may not be able to come to an agreement on where you and your CEO see things, but you're going to have documentation on file, and you're going to have the discussion about what you expect moving forward. The single event bias refers to, being careful not to let one activity, whether it's good or bad, to influence your ratings. You might have had a great event late in the year, and that kind of clouds your thinking from what happened earlier in their year. So it's just to be mindful of taking the whole year into account. And lastly, your CEO needs to know that everything said will be kept in confidence within the board's walls. They don't want to, hear out in the community if somebody's discussing their salary or their performance. All that should be kept confidential. So what does a typical process look like? Well, the first step is to form a committee. You don't want to be doing this, the board chair doesn't want to be doing this process alone, or two people. There should be a small committee that's formed, and who's on that committee might be spelled out in your bylaws, but most organizations use their executive committee. So you'll work together to come up with a timeline and when it will be conducted. Work with your CEO on that. And probably the trickiest part is timing it to your budget planning and deciding, are we going to try and do the review before the budget's finalized or afterwards? And there's kind of everybody, I think, has different thoughts on that, and you can decide what's going to work best for you. You'll want to review your job description. It might need updating. The job description should include the areas of responsibility, and you're going to tie the evaluation tool that you use back to the job description as well. You'll want to get feedback from all board members. You might have some newer members on the board, and include them in the process, because then they're going to get an idea and see how the whole process works and how the board works through that. And you'll just want to include an I don't know as a response on your form, because they may need that response. But that's a good way to get them rolled into that responsibility of being a board member. Some people question, should you go beyond the board to seek feedback? Should you include staff feedback? And there are some difficulties in doing that. If you have a small group, there really is a lack of confidentiality with staff, and they may feel that their responses can't be kept private. And then on the other side, the CEO can't really follow up or clarify with a comment that's made, because it is supposed to be confidential. So one thing that you can consider is if building in a process for staff to give feedback or to air a grievance in a different way. So you can use a grievance process or some type of grievance policy to get that separate from the evaluation process. And you could also include, clients or stakeholders or donor feedback, but that feedback is really suited to the broader context of the organization. rather than focused on the CEO. And then if you do decide to go that route, just keep in mind that that's going to extend the time involved in conducting the whole review. So the next step is about collecting the data, and your data is going to include the CEO's self-evaluation. You should always have the CEO do a self-evaluation, and you can use the same tool that the board will fill out. The CEO can fill out as a self-evaluation and then provide that when you go out to seek feedback from the full board. So they have that on hand. They'll have the dashboard, they'll have the job description. So all those pieces of information are available to them as they do their own review. So that you'll have the feedback from the board members, the dashboard, and the job description. And when the committee gets all that feedback from the board members, you're going to want to look for any outliers. So if the majority of the board answers one way on a topic and you've got one or two people who are way on the opposite end of the scale, if you can, you're going to want to follow up with them to get more information on why they answered the way they did. And then the committee is going to meet with the CEO to go over the summary of the feedback. And again, you don't want just one person meeting with the CEO. At least 2 committee members should meet with the CEO. And the CEO will have an opportunity to provide their own feedback or a rebuttal. They could include a written statement. And sometimes some forms will have a statement at the bottom that says that they received the information, but they don't necessarily agree with it. And that gives, in case you have some conflict, that kind of releases some of that tension. Some forms will ask both the committee chair and the CEO to sign the form. And you may get into a position where the CEO says, I'm not going to sign that form. And that's okay. You can handle it 2 ways. You can, document the work of the committee that we met with the CEO on such and such date. These are the people who are present. We provided this information. And the CEO refused to sign the instrument. And you can also, the other way you could do it is send an email to the CEO, documenting that we met, we provided this information, we understand that you didn't agree, and then make plans for how are you going to move forward from there if that's the case. Okay, so then after you meet with the CEO, the committee could have some revisions that they want to make to the summary, and then the committee presents the results, and if they have any suggestions for changes in compensation, they bring that to the full board for discussion and voting. And whatever changes are made, you'll want to present that in a motion, and it should be recorded in the board minutes. So that becomes part of your official record keeping. So what do you want to include in the evaluation itself? So you're going to look at the content and tie it back to the job description. And some typical areas could be around operations, like staffing and planning. There's probably going to be a financial component that will talk about maximizing resources and budgeting. You could have board relations. How well do the 2 of you work together, and how well does the CEO represent the organization and otherwise work with the public? And you'll want to include a general kind of overall comment section where it might be more narrative that both parties could fill in that for any extra information. And that's, you just customize that to your needs and what you want. What do you think about, well, what do we want to know? And build those types of questions in there. And throughout the year, you'll be tracking the progress against your goals and your budgets and your dashboards, and those are all good tools to build into the process. I talked a little bit ago about not having any surprises at the end of the year. And that's because you're going to be having regular conversations with your CEO. And this is more than likely going to be led by your board chair. And they could be as formal as having a mid-year evaluation or as informal as just getting together for a cup of coffee and talking about how things are going. And think about, how often do you want to meet? If things are going well, maybe quarterly is enough. But if you if you do decide to get together with your CEO, work with them and see what makes sense for both of you. Compensation, that's a really complex piece of the puzzle, and it has to be customized to your needs and your abilities as an organization. Some groups look at different options, whether you have a percentage increase, or some years maybe you have to have a flat increase. Do you use bonuses or incentives, or are there other benefits that you could incorporate? Like professional development, but I encourage you to work with your CEO in making those decisions where you can. For example, you could have a board that decided one year they're going to provide vacation time, more vacation time for the CEO, maybe combined with a smaller increase. But if the CEO can't take that time off, then that's not really helpful for them. So, what motivates your CEO and what works well for the organization. And a lot of people look at the sector and think, oh, nonprofit staff isn't paid very well. And we want to encourage, future generations and future leadership not to be interested in this sector. So it's important to support, good pay where you can for the leaders of organizations. One of the things I have noted here is the board's fundraising responsibility, and that's part of the board's role for an organization. And you should know that if you give an increase, you bear some responsibility for that. It doesn't become the responsibility of the CEO to fundraise for their own salary increase. So, conversely, don't hold that against the CEO and use it as an excuse not to give an increase also. So the question on that one slide about the IRS asked about whether you used comparable data for determining salary, and there's a few ways that you can do that. You can gather information from other similar organizations to get an idea if you're in the right ballpark. We participate in the M&A survey. This is the only survey in the state of Michigan that gathers information about nonprofit organizations. So it's being held actually right now. The results will come out in January of 2019. It's conducted every 2 years. And we listed the website there, and we really want to encourage you to take that survey so that we can get UP specific information. If we get enough respondents, we will. So on this next slide here, I've taken a snapshot of the executive director CEO position from the 2014 survey. So it's broken up by full-time and part-time salaries, and into 3 separate sections, either by budget or organization type or region. And you can see that red arrow there pointing to the UP region. And that's really helpful. When we get enough people there, we have to have more than 4 responses. And I think in the 2017 survey, we had 15 responses. So it's slowly increasing, but the more respondents we get, of course, the better sample that we're going to get. And this is just a great resource, and we'd really encourage everybody to participate in that survey. So it's mnaonline.org. Well, how can we help? We can work with your board, with you and your board to prepare an evaluation tool. We can confidentially survey board members and put those results together for you so you have a summary to present to your full board. So feel free to contact us and we can help you put that together for your organization. We wanted to encourage everybody we hope you're registered for the UP Nonprofit Conference coming up in October. We've got all the information on our website. We're very excited for this year's speaker, and we've expanded it a little bit for some extra special activities. So please take a moment and to go on the website and find out more about the conference, and you can give us a call if you have any questions. And we do have a limited number of scholarships available. If you're a member organization of Grow and Lead and you need some assistance, please contact us about that. So please customize what we've covered to the needs of your organization. Make it fit for you. There's a lot of variance in how you can do your process. Just make sure it's inclusive of all of your board members and get things documented. We're here to help you. And thanks for joining Victoria and me tonight. And feel free to contact me with any questions that you might have. My email address is there, my phone number, and we're happy to work with you. Thanks for participating tonight and have a great night.